Welcome back to Brand 2020. Today is March 28th, 2017. Akie Abe is the Prime Minister's wife. She is in the news an awful lot recently because of a scandal in Osaka, but it really discolors the general theme of what Akie Abe has traditionally been in Japanese politics and in Japanese society. You're watching this issue too. She is a woman empowered in Japanese culture.
She is. She also is a privileged woman. Her father was the president of the Morinaga Confectionery Company.
Of course, but who else would marry, somebody that is destined to become prime minister?
Right. So she's sort of comes from a background of
Sure.
sweetness, and and she has a very sweet nature. She's very warm. She was a very popular figure at last year's G7 summit, Ise-shima Summit. They had a separate spouses tour, and she went around with Justin Trudeau's wife,
right? And
they got along very well. But she's somebody who's quite outspoken. She's involved in social media. She has about 130,000 followers on Facebook,
right.
And she posts a lot of real newsy, sort of down-home photos, very non-traditional in this sense of being the spouse of a prime minister of Japan who is now serving in a second term and has been the face of Japan since his return in December 2012. And she's been more outspoken since then. So she's often quoted saying, I'm somebody with my own point of view.
She sure is, because, she is the prime minister's wife, but one of the I guess the requirements she had was, you can become prime minister, but I want to open my own bar, and she got it.
That's right. And I've actually been to her restaurant, and so I was kind of looking for her, but she wasn't there. And she was recently seen at she's a patron to the Asian University for Women, so they had their annual fundraiser, and she was there. That was very recent, and it's in the midst of this scrutiny, greater scrutiny that she's coming under. So she's been very popular, but now she's embroiled in this political scandal. In a way, this is new territory for her. You have to wonder, is she going it alone? Because she often will go out into the public. She doesn't have people around her. She doesn't have an entourage. She's very comfortable. Sort of
she used to have her own radio show.
That's right. She was a disc jockey.
Yeah, she's got a great following.
Yeah.
She's perceived in some circles as a little bit dingy because she's not really politically astute.
Right.
When she's on international travel and meeting with other wives, it looks a little bit somewhat off balance, but she is a power into her own right. She's the prime minister's wife.
Right, and I think even when she met with Melania Trump in Florida, and they did sort of more of a cultural event activity, it went over well. And so you really wonder, is she going to survive this scandal in the sense of, will her image be forever dinged? And it might be temporary, but I think it's just such new territory. PR, public relations, has its limits. You still have to be very genuine in who you are. And part of her likability has been that comfort in her own skin.
Yeah. Just to clue people in on where we are with the scandal involving her, it was reported that she gave 1 million yen to the school on behalf of her husband, and then she said, well, I don't remember that. And then in sworn testimony, the receiver of that gift said, no, she gave it to me. And in my view, if she gave it to him, it's no big deal. She is allowed to make that sort of political donation on her behalf or on her husband's behalf. There's nothing illegal about it as long as it's reported, and apparently it was not reported.
Right. And I guess there's now talk in the Diet about possibly bringing up perjury charges if he's so emphatic.
But the perjury charges are against him, right?
That's right.
As if he's the liar.
Sure.
And I don't know if I swallow that.
Well, it is a he said, she said. We don't have any video proof.
Right.
We didn't have hidden cameras.
But if you look at the two of them, he is not a political figure. He is not as sophisticated as she is. And she's covering her tracks. And this is, once again, it's diminishing her brand, the brand that we started this this program.
Well, if you're going to be that emphatic that indeed you didn't, because I guess originally it was, maybe I don't remember, but now
Right.
she's been much more clear about,
Right.
no, I did not. And so it's telling the public he's lying.
Right.
Then that better be the truth. And I would tend to believe her currently because I don't have any other data to the contrary. And I also would wonder how one could be so naive
Right.
to engage in that, even if it's legal given the sort of status of that
Right.
school.
It's very delicate.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, the foundation of the school, the teachings of the school was something that the Prime Minister supported and endorsed. So there's an awful lot to that story. And
Well, and that's also the thing about being the spouse of a politician who is more divisive because he's more right-wing nationalist, and she has always come across as more progressive.
Right.
So that
right.
has raised questions as to was she just holding back about her own political ideology. But I still tend to be an Akie Abe fan,
Sure.
not just because she was a disc jockey, which is very
No,
cool.
I am too. It's just that, you know, especially in today's political climate, you just want the women to do better. You want Inada to do well.
That's
She's
right.
the female member of the cabinet. She is the Minister of Defense. And you want these females to really shine and do a great job. And it just...
You're using the language.
Yes,
of
they keep getting
the
hammered.
Abe administration. But you're making an excellent point, because whenever this happens, it has a much greater
Impact.
damage.
Yes, it does. Right.
Because there are all these other women who will say, "Oh, I'm not even going to put my toe
No
into
way.
that
Right.
into that potential disaster." And so they are trailblazers, and you don't have to always agree with them politically. But the New York Times did a big piece about, is this going to be women sort of taking the hit now
Right.
politically? And then if you bring in kind of the East Asian context of Park's very ignominious
Right.
resignation and now potential indictment, it doesn't look good for
Right.
women entering that public sphere.
Yeah, well, politics is a blood sport, especially here in Tokyo. But we need more women to take that challenge and to be spokespeople for their cause, whatever that cause might be, so that other people can aspire to that and say, they did that, I can do that too. And because the immigration policy is not going to solve the problems that Japan has in the labor market. And, you know, 50% of the population, a little bit greater than 50% of the population, are female. And, you know, the amount of intelligence and unused resource that is represented there is just, it's too hard to ignore.
Well, and you also raised spokespeople. You know, with Mrs. Abe, she's still sort of commenting about her situation. I mean, she doesn't have anybody acting as a filter for her, and this is very unusual. But again, that was part of her appeal, because we so often have these people who kind of run interference for the celebrity types, and so she was somebody who was accessible. And that was something at the Asian University for Women fundraiser, that she still came and she supported the event. And I think people were really impressed by that, that she was able, in this sort of, with darker clouds hanging over her currently, that she was able to go out and be a supporter of something she really, truly believes in.
Right. Akie Abe, the Prime Minister's wife, has the ability to change and mold Japanese culture with regard to women. We're watching this closely. You should too.